Hare Krishna, amigos de Saque Alternativo. Hoy estamos muy contentos porque tenemos un invitado muy especial. Él se llama Prem Prabhu, quien ha practicado 33 años de Bhakti Yoga, ese tipo de yoga. Y hoy vamos a tener la gran fortuna de que hablemos un poco más acerca de este nuevo concepto que estamos tratando de que todos ustedes tengan, y es de cómo podemos ser felices en esta vida. Entonces, welcome. We are really happy to have you. Thanks for your time. So, the question that arises from all the community is how can we become happy? We want to be happy, but sometimes we lose the path to feel like every day, even if we are working or we have family, we're trying to be happy. So, please, can you explain us deep how can...
Yes. Happiness is a state of mind. So, unless we understand what is the mind, what is the nature of the mind, and how it responds to various situations, then we will not be able to understand what is happiness, and will not be able to understand the process to attain it. Now, according to the psychology of yoga, the mind is actually not the brain. It's not a product of the brain. It doesn't come from the brain. But it's a very subtle, fine energy called chitta. And this chitta, when we feel happiness, it is actually expanding and illuminating. That's called prakash, expanding, and ullas, illuminating. And when we feel sadness, that is because the substance of the mind stuff, the substance of the mind, the chitta, is darkening and contracting. So, in Sanskrit, the word for happiness is sukha, and the word for sadness is dukkha. So, ka means sky or space, and su means beautiful. So, happiness, sukha, means that your inner space is light and beautiful. And dukkha, du means bad. So dukkha means a bad sky, like a bad weather internally. That means your inner psychological body, the chitta is becoming dark and contracting. Now, what is it that makes us, our consciousness, our chitta, expand and contract? Well, there are three forces in nature. The force of creativity is called rajas. Then the force of destruction is called tamas. And then there is the sattva, the balance. So generally when people want to find happiness, they look for it by taking shelter of the rajas, the passion. They try to find some object that they can taste, that they can enjoy. And they become absorbed in that. So when you become absorbed in something, then the oscillation of the mind, which makes us feel uneasy, unsteady, which makes us feel disturbed or dissatisfied, when we're absorbed in something, then the mind becomes peaceful for a moment and we feel some happiness. So if someone is enjoying whatever it is, playing some video game or watching a movie or sex or whatever, they try to find happiness, that means they become fully absorbed in that activity, and it makes the mind become steady for a moment, and then they feel sukha, some happiness. Yeah. But the problem is this, that when we try to enjoy the external objects of the world to steady the mind and feel happiness, that is a very flickering, momentary, very temporary. So after a few hours or whatever, then that pleasure comes to an end, and then the mind actually becomes more turbulent, more dark, more contracted than it was before. Yeah. So that makes a cycle of addiction, where on the one hand we want happiness, but the process that we try to use to find that happiness makes us become more dissatisfied, more disappointed, and so on. So the actual process for happiness, how to make the mind steady, how to make it in equilibrium, in peace, permanently. So that is done by the energy of sattva gun, sattva. So if a person, they practice the self-restraint, they practice meditation, they find that sattvic energy in themselves, not depending on anything external, then slowly, if someone will do yoga, for example, if someone will practice meditation, for example, if someone will refrain from the just stimulating or overstimulating their body, mind and senses, gradually that sattvic energy, the energy of balance, increases and increases, and the person's mind feels the prakash, the illumination, and the ullas, the joy, continuously without any external cause. In other words, that becomes who you are, that becomes your state of mind, that becomes permanent. So, if we want to rise up to that sattvic state of happiness, there are different approaches. So one is the mechanistic approach, where you make your body sit in a particular posture and you do pranayama, and your breathing then makes the mind become steady. Because there's a connection, your pran is the connection between the physical body and the mind, actually. So, mechanically, we can say that if the breathing is slowed down, then it will make the mind become more steady and less disturbed. And on the other hand, if the mind is disturbed, you'll see that the breathing becomes very fast. Like if a person is nervous, or if a person is telling a lie, that the police know this when they interview someone. They watch to see if their breathing is increasing. Because that means the person is lying and they are nervous. Like that. So there's an exact correlation between the mind and our breathing. So the pran connects the mind to the physical body. So that's a mechanical way to make the mind become peaceful. But there's another way. And this is in regard to the question, why is the mind disturbed in the first place? What is making the waves of different types of emotions like anger and greed and jealousy and all of these things? Why is that there? And that is because our consciousness has turned away from the mood of serving God. Every soul is a part of Supreme Lord. In Sanskrit, the Supreme God, he's called Krishna. Krish means attractive, and Na means Ananda or joy. So Krishna means the Supreme Person who is so beautiful and so full of joy. So the nature of every soul is to have a relationship of loving service to God. So when our mind and senses are turned towards God and we engage in bhakti yoga, then automatically the mind becomes peaceful. And when our mind is turned away from God, then these waves of material energy, they come it's like the default position. It naturally happens when we forget God. So you can combine two things: the yogic process of the pran and also the bhakti process of turning the mind towards God by chanting mantra. You see? I'll explain how it happens. If you chant a mantra, like the most famous mantra is the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Now, let's say any person wants to speak. Now what happens is, when the desire comes that you want to speak, then this desire, it disturbs the pran in the Mooladhara chakra, that's the lowest chakra. And then this pran begins to rise up and it comes to the Manipurak chakra. So this chakra is our level of mental energy. And then it comes up to the Anahata chakra, that is buddhi, intelligence. Then it comes to the Vishuddhi chakra, that is where the vocal cords are situated. And then the sound comes out. So before you make a sound, actually that vibration started on a very subtle level in the Muladhara chakra and slowly comes up. And it passes through the mind. It passes through the mind. In the same way, when someone is speaking to you, the sound goes in your ear, and then the sound goes through the mind to become processed so you can understand what it means. Now, when you chant a mantra, you begin, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So this sound is coming up and going through the mind, and then coming out from the mouth. And then it goes in your ear and goes back down and again through the mind. So by chanting the mantra, then also the prana is working on the mind, coming from below and coming from above to catch the mind and keep it very, very steady and peaceful. Then naturally happiness comes because of the steadiness of the mind. And then when the mind is very, very steady, it becomes like a clear lake of water. You know, if water in a lake has waves, if you look, you cannot see anything because it's too distorted. But if the lake becomes very, very still, you look and you can see your face. So when you repeat the mantra and the mind becomes very still, then reflected in the mind, you can see your Atma, the soul. You see your soul. And next to the soul, there is a friend living with you in your heart always. That is Krishna, God. God is living within everyone. If we can just make the mind steady by meditation, by chanting the mantra, we can realize ourselves and also we can see God. And then, because God is the Krishna, that means full of unlimited joy, when the soul who is happy comes in contact with the Supreme Soul, who is like an endless ocean of happiness, then the complete joy, the highest potential of every soul becomes realized.
So for like a common people, how can we start this process? I mean, in our house, how can, that means that we need to have a routine or something like that?
If you want to begin the journey to come to this realization of the soul and the Supreme Soul, then first of all, it's quite important to not make more waves of heavy karma. Difficult situations approach us due to past karmic activities. So one of the best ways you can do this is to become vegetarian. Because when we enjoy at the expense of killing animals, then it makes very strong waves of karma, and that comes to us as many dramatic and traumatic situations in our life. So that's a very good thing. First, don't be involved in the cruelty or killing of animals. Take just pure vegetarian food. Another thing is, one should try to avoid intoxication, because all types of addictions, whether it's drugs or cigarettes or anything, all types of addictions make the mind become very depressed and very dark. So this should be avoided. Also, basically, the morality that you find in the major religions of the world, for example, the 10 Commandments of Christianity and the ethics and morality that you find in the main religions of the world, this is very helpful for our everyday life. It may be difficult and we may feel some temptations and so on, but if we can every morning wake up early in the morning, and bathe ourselves, and then sit peacefully and chant mantra, you can begin just for 10 minutes or 20 minutes like this, then you will feel such an internal satisfaction that it's very easy to avoid the temptations and difficulties of the world. And if sometimes there comes a problem, it's not the end of the world. Just again, continue your meditation, and eventually that detachment from the dependence on external things will become very strongly rooted in your heart, and you'll feel the constant flow of internal joy.
Okay, great.
So it's an easy thing. You don't have to make major changes in your life. Everyone can incorporate some practice of bhakti yoga every morning, and that will permeate your whole day. The feeling of joy, that feeling of devotion and unconditional love and connection with God. And by being connected with God, we feel connected with everyone. Then those experiences you have in your morning meditation, that will spread throughout your whole day, and you'll be very happy.
So it's very important to wake up early.
Yes, you know that we discussed the three energies, the energy of Rajas, passion, and Tamas, destruction, and Sattva, which is the energy of balance. So all the things of this world are pervaded by, and actually created, manifested by these energies. So time is no different. So the different times of the day are predominated by these different energies. So the early morning time, just before dawn, from about 1 hour, 36 minutes before dawn, until about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, this period of time, there's more sattva gun. So if the place where you are staying it is that time of the day in that part of the world, is more sattvic, more the energy of balance is there. So if you do your meditation at that time, you get some support from nature. So it will just be easier for you. Then in the middle of the day, then the rajas, the passion comes about. Everyone's running around, they're very busy, they don't have time to stop and think. And but then at night time, you see, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, that's when tamas comes. That's when people, they go out, they start taking alcohol and drugs and fighting, and all types of sinful activities become prominent then. So we see that throughout the day, those energies are changing, and we can take advantage of that change by practicing our meditation in the morning time.
Okay, great. So we hope that you can come to South America. It will be really...
Which city are you in?
Cochabamba.
Cochabamba.
Yes, and Bolivia. We are really eager to have these proper teachings, and in easy way we can understand. So really thank you very much for your time, Prabhu. And yeah, it was wonderful and really helpful for us. Hare Krishna.
So my pranam to all my brothers and sisters in Cochabamba, Bolivia, and I pray that very soon I will be able to come and meet with you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Y para los que no hablan inglés, va a haber una traducción, no hay problema, voy a hacer un texto de traducción. Entonces, gracias por su tiempo.